Good Lord, said Sid Ronson next morning, standing by his fence, reading the note. What is the meaning of this? What is she thinking? Are those gappers our gappers? Are those goats our goats? Good Lord, said Carol Ronson, they certainly are not. They are her goats and her gappers, as indicated by the fact that they are in her yard. Is her yard our yard? I think not. I feel that our yards are our yards, said B. Romo. Quite right, said Sid Ronson. Well said, B. I, for one, said Carol Ronson, and then she forgot what she was going to say, and poked Sid, who almost always knew what she had been about to say. I, for one, he said, poking her back, out of habit, I do not intend to stand idly by while my poor daughters, Beverly and Gloria, who only recently were freed from gapper duty, go marching out of my yard into her yard and lend a hand. What sort of father would I be? What kind of message would I be sending? Would I be saying, girls, I don't value you. I think you should work like dogs to solve a problem that isn't even yours. Preposterous! I refuse to say that. I'm very sorry that Capable's luck has gone bad. But come to think of it, I for one do not believe in luck. Do you know what I believe? You don't believe in luck? Said Carol, who was quite thrilled that what she had been going to say had turned out to be so very long and opinionated. I believe we make our own luck in this world, said Sid. I believe that when my yard suddenly is free of gappers, why that's because of something good I have done. Because, as both of you ladies know, I have always been a hard worker. As have I, said B. Romo. I too have always been a hard worker, as have my boys. And look, no gappers, just like you. I suppose one might say that we too have made our own luck with our own hard work. Work, 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 said Carol. Maybe I should compose a response, said Sid. That would be super, said B. Romo. So Sid Ronson began composing the following response. Dear Capable, it said, we are in receipt of your letter from the other day. That other day, whenever that day was when you sent that letter that you sent us. Well, we regret to inform you that although we are very sympathetic to your significant hardships, don't you think it would be better if you took responsibility for your own life? We feel strongly that once you rid your goats of gappers, as we have, you will feel better about yourself, and also we will feel better about you. Not that we're saying we're better than you, necessarily. It's just that since gappers are bad, and since you alone now have them, well, it stands to reason that you are not perhaps quite as good as us. Not that we hate you. I mean, we don't. We sort of even like you. Just please get rid of those gappers. Prove that you can do it just as we proved we could do it. And at that time, and at that time only, please come back over. And won't that be fun? All of us standing around the fire, sharing a laugh about those bad old days when we all had gappers. Love, your neighbor. Sid crept to Capable's mailbox and slipped the note in. That afternoon, Mrs. Romo finished her usual afternoon session of shouting at her boys for not doing their afternoon scales, and then she stepped out onto what she called her veranda, which was a little square of hard-packed dirt where the cat liked to leave its chewed-up spitty toys. Walking by was Capable, looking mad, leading her goats on a rope. With Capable was her father, muttering and shaking his head. Hello, dear, said Mrs. Romo. How quaint that you've tied all your goats together. Why, they look so cute. And why did you do that? Are you just being silly, taking them on a little tour of the town? No, said Capable. I'm giving up. Well, why do you have to say it so grumpy? Said B. Romo. And what do you mean you're giving up? I'm taking these goats to Frip to sell, Capable said. It's too hard here and nobody's helping us. Why, do you mean me? Said B. Romo. I hope you don't mean us, said Sid Ronson, leaning out the window with shaving cream on his face. Did you not get our letter? Asked B. Romo. Did you not get my letter? Said Sid Ronson. I have to say, it's a very strange idea, said Carol Ronson. I have to say it makes me somewhat angry that you should expect us to do your work. I mean, do you cover my roses? Do you polish my antiques? Do you force my boys to sing their scales? Said B. Romo. Do you trim my nose hairs? Said Sid Ronson. And what will you do then? Said Carol, having sold all your goats. Capable said, fish! That's what I'll do. Good Lord, said Sid Ronson. This was a shocker. The people of Frip did not fish. Why, they had stopped fishing a long time ago. When Sid Ronson's great-grandfather had acquired the town's first goat, Sid's great-grandfather had been the richest man in town, and once he got a goat, everybody wanted a goat. And fishing went out of style. And now fishing was considered something one did only if one was not bright enough to acquire a goat. Fish for what? Asked B. Romo. For fish? With a hook? And some bait? Some bait on a hook that you throw into the sea? To think that it's come to this, said Capable's father. To think that my daughter is going to start fishing, which is something she's never even done before. You must be heartbroken, said Sid Ronson. I've been crying about it all night, said Capable's father, which is why my mustache is so wet and my nose is so red, which I have to say is completely unprecedented. Well, I've done my best, Capable said, but look at these goats. Everyone looked at the goats, which were skinny and jittery and kept glancing nervously at the ocean. Well, if you want my advice, said Sid Ronson, just work harder. Actually, no, don't work harder, work smarter. Be more efficient than you've ever been before. In fact, be more efficient than is physically possible. I know that's what I do. Well, that's also what I do, said B. Romo. Me too, said Carol Ronson. I certainly wouldn't start fishing about it, said Sid Ronson. But Capable knew she had tried her best, and her best hadn't worked. And remembered her mother once saying, well, just because a lot of people are saying the same thing loud over and over, well, that doesn't mean it's true. So she kissed her father on the cheek and walked her goats out of Frip, and a few hours later she returned with a fishing pole and some hooks and a big heavy book called How to Fish for Fish. Remember that less stupid gapper with the brain poking out on the side of his head? That night he deduced that the reddish Frip shack, the one they had come to love so well, was now totally without goats. He deduced this by systematically leading his team of 1,500 gappers blindly around Capable's yard for approximately 6 hours. Once he had confirmed the total absence of goats, he led his team into the Romos' yard, where he found 10 fat, complacent goats who were soon lying on their sides, mortified, covered with bright orange gappers, making the usual high-pitched, joyful, shrieking noise which woke B. Romo from a sweet dream in which she was engaged to a handsome man who loved to hear her sing. She was singing and singing, and suddenly her fiancé turned into a vacuum cleaner, and apparently in response to her excellent singing, began making a high-pitched, joyful, shrieking noise. The shrieking was louder than her singing, however, so B. Romo stepped on the little switch on her fiancé's foot to make him stop shrieking so he could better hear her singing. Well, when this didn't work, she woke with an angry look on her face, having decided never to date a vacuum cleaner again, especially one who didn't properly appreciate her singing. She then realized, with some alarm, that even though she had stepped very firmly on her fiancé's foot, the high-pitched, joyful, shrieking noise still had not stopped. Imagine her surprise when she went to the window and saw her goats lying on their sides, mortified, covered with gappers. B. Romo let out a high-pitched shrieking noise of her own that was not a bit joyful. "Good Lord," said Sid Ronson from his bed. "Is that B? Is that B shrieking? Is she shrieking or is she singing?" "I don't know, it's always kind of hard to tell," said Carol Ronson. So they rushed to the window and saw the Romo boys, Robert and Gilbert, frantically brushing gappers just like in the old days. "Robert? Gilbert?" said Sid Ronson. "See here, boys, how did this happen?" But Robert and Gilbert were too breathless and sweaty to answer. "Oh, Sid," said Carol, "check our goats. Make sure our goats are fine." Sid says, "I'm happy to say that our goats appear to be fine. They're actually standing at the fence, watching Robert and Gilbert, sort of smiling. Can goats smile? Our goats appear to be smiling." "But no gappers," said Carol Ronson. "Nope, no gappers," said Sid Ronson. "Thank God," said Carol. "We're so blessed." "I feel like praying," said Sid. "I feel like thanking God for giving us whatever trait we have that keeps us so free of gappers." "We should," said Carol. "We should pray." And the Ronsens prayed, thanking God for making them the sort of people they were, the sort of people who had no gappers, and they prayed that God would forgive B for not being that sort of person, and would have mercy on her, and in His infinite mercy would make B into a better sort of person and take all her gappers away. Meanwhile, Capable was teaching herself to fish. All day she stood on the beach in a pair of dumpy green overalls. Sometimes she practiced getting her line caught in a tree. Sometimes she practiced peeling her worm off her forehead while feeling grateful that she hadn't just succeeded in hooking her own eyebrow. Other times she practiced sitting frustrated and near tears in the sand. At one point, having just knocked herself down by trying to reel in her own shoe, which unfortunately at the time was still on her foot, she looked up to see Beverly and Gloria Ronson staring down at her with their eyebrows held very high. "You should be glad that we're not boys," said Beverly. "Boys would not like that, what you just did," said Gloria. "Boys do not like girls who wear overalls and knock themselves over with their own fishing thingamabobs. Boys like girls who wear nice dresses and who, if they absolutely have to fall over, do so only after being pushed over by a boy who's just kidding, who only knocked them over to show how much he liked them," said Beverly. "At least that's been my experience." "Yes," said Gloria, "although some boys might not mind a girl who falls over if that girl giggled a bit and maybe needed some help getting back up." "Oh, that's true," said Beverly. "Although the types of boys I like, well, he's the type of boy who likes the type of girl who not only never falls over, but rarely even moves because she is so graceful. She just stands there absolutely still, looking very pretty, like this." "Oh, you mean like this here?" said Gloria. Like what we're doing right now?" And both Ronson girls stood very still and looked sort of pretty, if you like that kind of girl, who, to look sort of pretty, has to stand very still. Capable asked them, "Why do you care so much about what boys like?" And at this point, Beverly and Gloria stopped standing perfectly still in order to gasp, to turn red in the face, and then to fold and unfold their largest ears several times with their fingers, as if there was some blockage that had kept them from hearing her correctly. And Beverly says, I totally care what boys like, especially cute boys." "Who knows," said Beverly. "An ugly boy might turn out to be cute later, or he might have a cute friend," said Gloria. "Take Bob Byrne," she said. "He's ugly. His nose is about a foot long, but guess who he's friends with?" "Bernie Ben," said Beverly. "Oh my God, is Bernie's nose ever not a foot long? His nose is so cute, and it's just the right length." At that moment, Capable caught her first fish, which came skittering across the beach like a silver coin that had suddenly come to life and was trying to get a hook out of its mouth. Yuck, said Gloria. Watch it. That thing on that hook nearly brushed right against my new tights. Gloria says, one thing we do not need is fish goo on our new tights. She led Gloria away and off the beach. But the fishing was good. By 10, Capable had caught enough fish for a nice dinner. The rest of the morning she swam and slept. In the early afternoon she swam some more and made a sandcastle and daydreamed a bit. She daydreamed about the old days when her father used to make her mother laugh by holding radishes in his eye sockets. She daydreamed about dressing up the Romo boys in goat suits and locking them in a closet full of gappers. In the late afternoon, she daydreamed further, slept again, woke up, went for a swim, made a second sandcastle, and then walked home happy, dragging behind her a huge gapper sack full of fish.